wealthy CEO heartbroken as he caught his wife cheating with his best friend. He filed the divorce papers immediately. "How long, Victoria? How long have you been lying to my face?" "Marcus, please, let me explain. I asked you a question. How long?" 8 months. "We tried to stop, but there's this connection that I've never felt with anyone else." 8 months. 8 months of me coming home to you every night. 8 months of me telling you I love you. 8 months of planning our future while you were in bed with my best friend. Marcus, man, we didn't mean for it to happen like this. Don't you dare speak to me, Adrian. Don't you dare say another word. Have you ever walked into a room expecting one thing and discovered that your entire life was a lie? Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you never thought to question the late nights, the unexplained trips, the distance that crept in so slowly you didn't even notice until it was too late? That's what happened to Marcus Steele, a self-made CEO worth over $400 million, a man who built an empire from nothing, a man who thought he had everything figured out. Until 2:47 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon, when his whole world shattered in the time it took to open a bedroom door. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you thought would never hurt you, if you've ever had your trust destroyed by the people closest to you, stay with me. Because this story is about to take you on a journey through devastation, revelation, and a kind of redemption that nobody saw coming. Hit that like button right now, and make sure you subscribe to Cedar Light Love Stories, because you're going to want to hear how this unfolds. Trust me. Let me take you back to where it all began. Marcus Steele was on a plane from Singapore when everything changed. He had spent the last 72 hours in back-to-back meetings, negotiating a merger that would expand Steele capital into Asian markets. The deal had closed successfully. His company's valuation had just jumped by 30%. He should have been celebrating. Instead, he was exhausted, running on black coffee and 3 hours of sleep, thinking about his wife, Victoria. Beautiful, sophisticated Victoria Ashford Steele. They had met 5 years ago at a charity gala in downtown Seattle. She had been wearing a red dress that turned heads across the ballroom. He had been the guest speaker, fresh off his first major acquisition, trying to navigate a world of old money and social connections that felt foreign to a kid who grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment in South Seattle. She had approached him after his speech. Confident, poised. She told him she admired his story. The scholarship kid from a working-class family who built a multi-million-dollar venture capital firm by the time he was 30. They talked for hours that night about ambition, about building legacies, about what it meant to create something that mattered. 6 months later, he proposed. A year after that, they were married in a ceremony that cost more than his mother had earned in a decade of working double shifts as a nurse. For 4 years, Marcus thought he had it all. The company, the penthouse overlooking Elliott Bay, the wife who understood his world, the best friend who had been by his side since their Stanford days. Adrian Cross, his college roommate, his business partner, the guy who knew him before the money, before the success, before Marcus. Steele became a name that meant something in Seattle's business community. Everything was perfect. Or so he thought. The flight attendant's voice came over the intercom. "We're beginning our descent into Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. Please return your seats to their upright position." Marcus checked his watch. 1:15 p.m. The merger meeting in Singapore had been scheduled to run until Friday, but technical issues with the international team's presentation had shut everything down early. He had caught a flight out 12 hours ahead of schedule. He pulled out his phone as soon as they landed, scrolling through messages. 3 from his assistant Jennifer about quarterly reports. 2 from board members congratulating him on the Singapore deal. 1 from his mother asking when he'd come visit. Nothing from Victoria. That wasn't unusual. She knew he was supposed to be in meetings all day. She wouldn't expect to hear from him until evening Seattle time. Marcus smiled to himself as he walked through the airport toward ground transportation. He would surprise her. Stop at that wine shop in Pike Place Market and pick up the bottle of Bordeaux she had mentioned last month. Maybe grab flowers. Come home early and actually spend an evening with his wife instead of collapsing into bed at midnight and leaving again at 6 a.m. When had he last done that? When had he last come home while the sun was still up? When had he last prioritized her over a conference call or a client dinner? He couldn't remember. And that realization sat heavy in his chest as he climbed into the back of a town car. The drive from the airport to downtown Seattle took 40 minutes. Marcus spent it answering emails and making mental notes about the contracts his legal team needed to review. He was good at compartmentalizing, good at switching between personal and professional. It was a skill he had learned early. You had to be focused to build what he had built. The car pulled up in front of a small wine shop tucked between a seafood restaurant and a bookstore. Marcus went in and found the Bordeaux, a 2015 vintage, $350. Victoria would love it. Flowers next. He stopped at a corner stand and bought white roses. Her favorite. By the time he arrived at their building, a gleaming glass tower in the heart of downtown, it was 2:35 p.m. The doorman greeted him with surprise. "Mr. Steele, we weren't expecting you back until Friday." "Change of plans," Marcus said, holding up the wine and flowers. "Thought I'd surprise Mrs. Steele." The elevator ride to the penthouse on the 42nd floor took less than a minute. Marcus used his keycard to access their private floor. The doors opened directly into their foyer. Marble floors. Original artwork on the walls. Floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the Sound and the Olympic Mountains beyond. Everything was quiet. "Victoria?" he called out, setting his briefcase down by the door. No answer. He walked through the living room, past the kitchen with its top-of-the-line appliances that neither of them actually used much. They ate out most nights. Or ordered in. Victoria wasn't much of a cook, and Marcus was rarely home early enough to care. That's when he heard it. Laughter. Soft and intimate. Coming from down the hallway. From their bedroom. Marcus froze. His brain tried to process what he was hearing. Maybe Victoria had a friend over. Maybe she was on the phone. Maybe there was a perfectly reasonable explanation for why there was another voice in his home in the middle of a Wednesday afternoon. He moved toward the bedroom. Each step felt like walking through water. Everything slowed down. The wine bottle suddenly felt heavy in his hand. The flowers seemed absurd. The bedroom door was partially open. He could hear voices now. Clear. Distinct. Victoria's voice. Breathless. Happy. "Marcus will be in Singapore until Friday. We have time." Another voice. Male. Familiar in a way that made Marcus's stomach drop. "Then we have time." "God, Vic. I've been going crazy pretending I don't want you every time the three of us are together." Marcus's hand was on the door before his brain caught up to what his body already knew. He pushed it open. The scene that greeted him would replay in his mind for months afterward. Victoria, wearing the silk robe he had bought her in Paris last year, sitting on the edge of their bed. Adrian Cross, shirtless, standing close enough to touch her. Both of them turning toward the door with identical expressions of shock and horror. Time stopped. Marcus heard his own breathing. Saw Victoria's mouth open and close. Watched Adrian reach for his shirt like that would somehow undo what was happening. The wine bottle slipped from Marcus's hand. It hit the floor but didn't break. Just rolled across the hardwood with a hollow sound that seemed too loud in the sudden silence. "Marcus?" Victoria gasped. "You're supposed to be in Singapore," Marcus finished for her. His voice sounded strange. Distant. Like it was coming from someone else. "I know." Adrian had his shirt on now. "Man, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean." "You didn't mean what?" Marcus interrupted. His eyes never left Victoria's face. "You didn't mean for me to find out? You didn't mean to sleep with my wife?" "Marcus, please, let me explain," Victoria said. She stood up, clutching the robe closed. "This isn't what you think." "Really?" Marcus heard the cold edge in his own voice. "Because it looks like my best friend is in my bedroom with my wife on a Wednesday afternoon, while I'm supposed to be 3,000 miles away." "It's not like that," Adrian started. "Then, what is it like?" Marcus turned to face him fully. And Adrian, who had stood beside him through college, through his mother's death, through every major moment of his adult life, couldn't meet his eyes. "Explain it to me. Make me understand what I'm looking at right now." Silence filled the bedroom. Marcus could hear the clock on the nightstand ticking. Could see the sheets rumpled on the bed. His bed. The bed he shared with his wife. "How long?" The question came out quiet. Controlled. Victoria glanced at Adrian, then back at Marcus. "How long, Victoria? How long have you been lying to my face?" "Marcus, please, let me explain. I asked you a question. How long?" Victoria's chin lifted. That defiant gesture he used to find attractive. Now it just made him feel sick. 8 months. 8 months. The words echoed in Marcus's head. 8 months was how long they had been planning the Singapore expansion. 8 months ago, Victoria had suggested they buy the house in the San Juan Islands. 8 months ago, Adrian had shown up at their anniversary dinner with an expensive bottle of champagne and a toast about friendship that lasted forever. 8 months of me coming home to you every night, Marcus said. His voice was still calm. Too calm. 8 months of me telling you I love you. 8 months of planning our future while you were in bed with my best friend. Marcus, man, we didn't mean for it to happen like this, Adrian said. Don't you dare speak to me, Adrian. Marcus's control cracked just slightly. Don't you dare say another word. We tried to stop, Victoria said. Her eyes were filling with tears now. But there's this connection that I've never felt with anyone else. That's what broke through Marcus's shock. The audacity of her standing there, in the robe he bought her, in the bedroom they shared, telling him about her connection with another man. A connection, he repeated. You've been lying to me every single day for 8 months because of a connection. It's more complicated than that. No. Marcus shook his head. It's actually very simple. You made a choice. Both of you. Every single day for 8 months, you chose to betray me. He walked to the closet, pulled out a suitcase, started packing with methodical precision. Dress shirts, suits, ties, everything folded with the same careful attention he brought to business deals. What are you doing? Victoria asked. Leaving. Marcus, we need to talk about this like adults. Like adults. He turned to face her. Was it adult when you decided to sleep with my best friend? Was it adult when you lied to my face every single day? I know you're hurt, but if you'll just listen. I'm done listening. He zipped the suitcase. I've been listening to lies for half a year without even knowing it. Where are you going? There was genuine concern in Victoria's voice now, as if she suddenly realized the consequences of what she had done. Anywhere but here. Connor appeared in the doorway. Marcus, please. We can work through this. People make mistakes. We can go to counseling. Marcus stared at him. This man he had known since they were 19. This man who had been the best man at his wedding. This man who had keys to his home, and knew the security codes, and had been welcome at their table every week for years. There is no we anymore, Adrian. There hasn't been a we for 8 months apparently. I just didn't know it. That's not true. What Victoria and I have, it's different. It's not about love. It's about this attraction that we couldn't control. I don't want to hear this. Marcus grabbed his suitcase. I don't want to hear about your uncontrollable attraction to my wife. He moved toward the door. Adrian reached out as if to stop him, and Marcus turned on him with such sudden fury that Adrian actually stepped back. Don't touch me. The words came out quiet, deadly. Marcus walked down the hallway, through the living room, past all the carefully chosen furniture and expensive art, and the life he thought he had built. Victoria followed him. Marcus, don't leave like this. We have a life together. We have a mortgage and shared accounts and you destroyed all of it, Marcus interrupted. You can have the penthouse. You can have the accounts. My lawyer will be in touch. Your lawyer? Did you think I would just accept this? Did you think I'd come home, find you with him, and we'd all sit down and have a rational conversation about your connection? He opened the front door, turned back one last time. I want you to know something, Victoria. This isn't just about the cheating. It's about the fact that you chose my best friend. That's not a mistake. That's calculated cruelty. Her face crumpled. Olivia. Don't, he said. Just don't. Marcus walked out and closed the door behind him with a quiet click that felt louder than if he had slammed it. The elevator ride down felt endless. Marcus stared at his reflection in the mirrored walls. The same face that had looked back at him this morning. But everything else had changed. His marriage was over. His best friend was a stranger. His entire life had been rewritten in the time it took to open a door. His hands started shaking as he walked through the lobby. By the time he reached the street, his whole body was trembling. He made it half a block before he had to stop and lean against a building. The panic hit all at once. 8 months. 8 months of lies. Every business trip where he had called Victoria to say goodnight. Every weekend when Adrian had come over for dinner. Every moment he had trusted them both completely. How had he not seen it? What kind of fool was he? His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Marcus, please, come back. Let's talk about this. He deleted it. Blocked her number. Another text. This one from Adrian. Man, I know you're hurt, but you have to understand. Blocked. Marcus stood on the sidewalk in downtown Seattle, holding a suitcase and trying to remember how to breathe. People walked past him. Business people heading back to their offices. Tourists taking photos of the Space Needle in the distance. Everyone living their normal lives while his fell apart. He needed to call someone. His lawyer. His assistant. Someone who could help him figure out what to do next. Instead, he found himself scrolling through his contacts to a name he hadn't called in months. Natalia Rivera. His finger hovered over her name. They had been friends since college. Before Stanford, before the money, before any of this. She had been there when he was Marcus from the apartment complex, working 3 jobs to pay for textbooks. She had believed in him when he had nothing but ideas and ambition. And then somewhere along the way, as his life got bigger and shinier, he had let her drift to the periphery. Monthly coffee dates that became quarterly catch-ups, that became occasional text messages. He pressed call. She answered on the 4th ring. Steel Capital, this is Natalia Rivera speaking. Her voice, professional, warm, familiar in a way that made something in his chest loosen. Nat. His voice cracked on her name. Can we meet? Are you free? There was a pause. He could picture her in her office, probably surrounded by paperwork, probably busy with a dozen things that didn't include dealing with an old friend who only called when he needed something. Marcus, what's wrong? The professional tone vanished, replaced by immediate concern. Where are you? Leaving my building. He stopped. Couldn't find words for what had just happened. I caught Victoria with Adrian. Another pause. Then, her voice firm and certain. I'm at the cafe on Pine Street. The one we used to go to. Come here. Now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Marcus. Her voice softened. Whatever happened, you're going to be okay. Just get here safe. He hung up and started walking. Put one foot in front of the other, focused on the immediate task of getting to Pine Street, of not thinking about what he had just walked away from, of not processing the magnitude of the betrayal. 23 minutes later, he pushed open the door of a small coffee shop that smelled like cinnamon and old books, so different from the sterile luxury of his usual haunts. This place had mismatched furniture and local art on the walls and a comfort that felt earned rather than purchased. Natalia was already at a corner table. 2 cups of coffee waiting. She stood as he approached, and for a moment, they just looked at each other. She had changed since he last saw her. Or maybe she hadn't. Maybe he just hadn't been paying attention. Her dark hair was longer now, pulled back in a practical braid. She wore jeans and a simple sweater. No designer labels. No performance. Just Natalia, looking at him with those steady brown eyes that had always seen through his bullshit. Hey, she said softly. Hey. She gestured to the chair across from her. Sit. Talk to me. Marcus sat. Wrapped his hands around the coffee cup. It was black, no sugar. Exactly how he had always taken it. She remembered. 8 months, he said finally. They've been together for 8 months, Nat. In my home. Lying to my face. I'm so sorry. The simple words, offered without judgment or platitudes, nearly broke him. How did I not see it? His voice was rough. I built a company from nothing. I can read a balance sheet from across a room. I negotiate multi-million-dollar deals. But I couldn't see that my wife and my best friend were. He couldn't finish the sentence. Because you trusted them, Natalia said quietly. Trust isn't stupidity, Marcus. What they did says everything about them and nothing about you. They sat in silence for a long moment. The cafe was quiet. Just a few other customers scattered at tables. The hiss of the espresso machine providing white noise. I punched him, Marcus admitted. Natalia's eyebrows went up. Good. He looked at her, surprised. Adrian Cross is a spineless coward who built his career on your generosity and repaid you by sleeping with your wife. A small, fierce smile played at her lips. He's lucky a punch is all he got. Despite everything, Marcus felt the corner of his mouth twitch. When did you become so bloodthirsty? When someone hurt my friend. She reached across the table and covered his hand with hers. What do you need? Place to stay? Lawyer recommendation? Someone to key Victoria's car? I need a lawyer. Bernard Fisher. The Bernard Fisher? The one they called the Shark? I don't do anything halfway, Nat. You know that. She squeezed his hand. I know. What else? I don't know. Marcus looked down at their hands. Hers was smaller than his but strong. Capable. Real. I thought I had my life figured out. I thought I knew what I was building. And it turns out it was all built on lies. Not all of it. She waited until he met her eyes. You built Steel Capital on your own merit. You created something real and valuable. That doesn't go away because Victoria made terrible choices, doesn't it? If I can't even see what's happening in my own marriage, what does that say about my judgment? It says you're human. Natalia leaned forward. Marcus, you've spent the last 10 years working 100-hour weeks. You've been so focused on building your empire that you stopped paying attention to anything else. That includes me, by the way. The gentle rebuke landed. I know. I'm sorry. I'm not looking for an apology. I'm just saying that you can't be surprised that things fell apart when you weren't there to notice them falling. She paused. But that still doesn't make it your fault. Victoria could have talked to you. She could have asked for counseling. She could have filed for divorce. She chose betrayal instead. That's on her. What if she tried to talk to me and I didn't listen? Did she? Marcus thought back over the last 8 months. Had there been signs? Conversations he had dismissed? Moments when Victoria had reached out and he'd been too busy to notice? He couldn't remember. And that was almost worse than if he could. I don't know, he admitted. Then you'll never know. And you can't make yourself crazy trying to figure it out. Natalia stood up. Come on. Where are we going? My place. You need somewhere to stay that isn't a hotel. And I have a guest room. Nat, I can't impose. It's not an imposition. It's what friends do. She picked up her bag. They show up. Marcus followed her out of the cafe to her car. A practical Subaru that was at least 5 years old. So different from his Tesla and Victoria's Mercedes. As Natalia drove through Seattle streets toward a neighborhood he rarely visited, Marcus found himself noticing details. The way she hummed softly along with the radio. The small succulent plant on her dashboard. The worn comfort of her car that spoke of actual life rather than pristine luxury. When did you buy this place? He asked, as she pulled up in front of a small craftsman bungalow with a blue front door. 2 years ago. She turned off the engine. I sent you an invitation to the housewarming. Marcus closed his eyes. Shame washing over him. I was in Tokyo. The Nakamura acquisition. I know. You sent flowers. Very expensive flowers. Her voice was carefully neutral. But you didn't come. I'm sorry. I know you are. She got out of the car. Come on. Let's get you settled. The house was everything his penthouse wasn't. Small. Comfortable. Lived in. Books everywhere. Mismatched furniture that somehow worked together. Photographs covering the walls. Her family. Her friends. There was one of the two of them from college, both grinning at the camera, so young and full of hope. Guest room is upstairs, first door on the left, Natalia said. Bathroom is across the hall. Make yourself at home. Marcus climbed the stairs, his suitcase feeling heavier with each step. The guest room had a handmade quilt on the bed and fresh flowers on the nightstand. It smelled like lavender and old books. Nothing like the sleek minimalism of his penthouse bedroom. He sat down on the bed and finally let himself feel the full weight of what had happened. His marriage was over. His best friend had betrayed him. 8 months of his life had been a lie. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Victoria must have gotten a new phone already. Marcus, we need to talk. This is ridiculous. We can work this out. He stared at the message for a long moment. Then he screenshotted it and sent it to Bernard Fisher with a note. Filing for divorce first thing tomorrow. Need you ready to go to war. The response came immediately. I'll have the papers ready. My office, 8 a.m. sharp. Marcus deleted Victoria's message and blocked the new number. A soft knock on the door. He looked up to see Natalia standing there with a cup of tea. Thought you might need this, she said. Thank you. He took the cup. For everything, Nat. For the room, for the coffee, for not asking a million questions. That's what friends do. She sat down in the chair by the window. We show up when it matters. I haven't been much of a friend to you. No. Her honesty was gentle but firm. You haven't, but you're here now. And I'm choosing to believe that means something. It does. Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time in years. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. She smiled slightly. You just stopped paying attention. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Marcus, can I ask you something? Anything. When was the last time you were happy? Not successful. Not accomplished. Actually happy. He opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. When was the last time? Before today, obviously. Before the betrayal. But even before that, when had he felt genuine happiness, rather than just the satisfaction of closing another deal? I don't know, he admitted. That's what I thought. Natalia stood up. Get some rest. Tomorrow is going to be hard. But you're going to get through this. And maybe, just maybe, losing everything you thought you wanted will help you figure out what you actually need. After she left, Marcus lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. The house was quiet except for the sound of Natalia moving around downstairs. Soft footsteps. The clink of dishes. The sound of someone actually living in their home, instead of just using it as a place to sleep between business trips. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was Adrian. Marcus, please. Let me explain. What Victoria and I have. He didn't read the rest. Just blocked the number and turned off his phone. Tomorrow, he would go to war. Tomorrow he would start dismantling his marriage, with the same strategic precision he brought to hostile takeovers. Tomorrow, he would figure out how to rebuild his life from the ashes of this betrayal. But tonight, in this small room that smelled like lavender, in this house that felt more like home than his penthouse ever had, Marcus let himself grieve. If this touched something in you, if you've ever had to rebuild your life after betrayal, do me a favor. Like this video. Subscribe to Cedar Light Love Stories. Share this with someone who needs to know that devastating endings can lead to beautiful beginnings. And comment below. Tell me about a time when losing everything led you exactly where you needed to be. I read every single comment, and your stories matter. Part 2 is coming, and I promise you, what happens next will restore your faith in second chances. Until then, remember this. The worst day of your life might just be the first day of the life you were always meant to live. Marcus woke up at 5:30 a.m. to the smell of coffee brewing downstairs. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Forgot what had happened. Then it all came rushing back. Victoria. Adrian. 8 months of lies. He showered, put on the same suit from yesterday, and went downstairs to find Natalia. In her kitchen, already dressed for work, 2 travel mugs of coffee on the counter. Thought you might need this, she said, handing him one. And breakfast. She pushed a plate across the counter. Scrambled eggs and toast. You didn't have to do this. I know. She picked up her own coffee. But you need to eat something before you go into battle with the shark. Trust me. They ate in comfortable silence. Marcus couldn't remember the last time he had breakfast at home. Usually he grabbed something at the office or skipped it entirely. Ready? Natalia asked when they finished. As I'll ever be. She drove him downtown, pulling up in front of the sleek glass building that housed Bernard Fisher's law firm. Marcus reached for the door handle, then paused. Nat. Thank you. For everything. Stop thanking me. That's what friends do. She touched his arm briefly. Call me after. Let me know how it goes. I will. Bernard Fisher's office was exactly what Marcus expected. All dark wood and leather. Original art on the walls. The kind of place that whispered power and money and ruthless efficiency. Bernard himself was a man in his early 60s with silver hair and eyes that could dissect a lie from across the room. He stood when Marcus entered, extending a hand. Mr. Steele, I pulled your preliminary file last night. Sit. Let's talk strategy. Marcus sat in the leather chair across from Bernard's massive desk. The lawyer opened a folder and pulled out several documents. Marriage to Victoria Ashford, 4 years, no children, significant combined assets. He looked up. Tell me about the prenup. There isn't one. Bernard's expression didn't change, but Marcus saw the slight tightening around his eyes. That's unfortunate. Victoria said it showed a lack of trust. That it meant I was planning for failure instead of fighting for success. Marcus heard the bitterness in his own voice. Turns out she was right about the lack of faith part. Just wrong about who had it. Walk me through the assets. The house. The penthouse is in both our names. We have joint accounts. I kept my own savings from before we married. Marcus leaned back. The San Juan house, also joint. The art collection, mostly acquired during the marriage. And then there's Steele Capital. Your shares in the company? Majority stake. 70%. The other 30 is split between investors and partners. Marcus paused. Including Adrian Cross, he has 8%. We'll deal with that separately. Bernard made notes on his legal pad. Washington is a community property state, Mr. Steele. Everything acquired during the marriage is split 50-50 unless we can prove separate property or establish fault that affected marital assets. She gets half of everything I built? She gets half of everything acquired during the marriage, yes. Bernard leaned forward. However, if we can establish that her infidelity caused financial harm, if we can prove she shared proprietary business information with Mr. Cross, we can argue for a different split. How do we prove that? We document everything. Every business dinner where Mr. Cross was present and potentially gained access to confidential information through your wife. Every expense charged to joint accounts that may have benefited the affair. Every trip, every gift, every pattern of deception. Bernard pulled out another file. I've already started the process. Subpoenaed hotel records, credit card statements, phone logs. By end of week, we'll have a complete timeline. Marcus felt something dark and satisfied settle in his chest. This was familiar territory. Strategy, leverage, controlled destruction. What do you need from me? Everything. Full access to all accounts, all records. I need you to document every interaction you remember that seemed off. Every late night, every unexplained trip, every time your instincts told you something was wrong. Bernard's eyes were sharp. And I need you to be ruthless, Mr. Steele. Because Victoria's attorney will be. They'll paint you as the workaholic husband who neglected his wife, drove her into another man's arms. We need to paint her as the calculating spouse who targeted your wealth and used your best friend to maximize her payout. That's not. Marcus stopped. Was that true? Had Victoria planned this? Or had it really just been about attraction and opportunity? I need to think about this. About how ugly I want this to get. Mr. Steele. Bernard's voice was firm. She made it ugly the moment she slept with your best friend in your bed. I'm just making sure you're not destroyed in the aftermath. He paused. Take the afternoon. Think about what you want. But Marcus, and I'm going to be blunt here, the woman you married, she stopped existing 8 months ago. The person you're divorcing is someone who lied to your face every single day. Someone who put your business at risk. Someone who showed you exactly who she is. Treat her accordingly. Marcus left the meeting an hour later with a folder full of preliminary documents and a strategy session scheduled for the next day. He stood on the sidewalk outside Bernard's building, Seattle's morning rush swirling around him, and felt hollowed out. His phone rang. Jennifer, his assistant. Mr. Steele. I heard about. She paused delicately. The situation. I'm so sorry. Do you need anything? Clear my calendar for the rest of the week. Reschedule everything that's not critical. Of course. And sir, if you need anything at all. Thank you, Jennifer. He hung up and realized he was standing 3 blocks from Natalia's cafe. He started walking. The cafe was busier now, mid-morning crowd of laptop workers and students. Natalia was behind the counter, making a complicated latte while chatting with a customer. She looked up as Marcus entered, and her expression immediately shifted from professional warmth to concern. She held up 10 fingers. He nodded and found a quiet corner table. When she finally slid into the seat across from him, 2 fresh cups of coffee in hand, she didn't ask how it went. Just waited. Bernard wants to go scorched earth, Marcus said. He wants to prove Victoria's infidelity caused financial harm. He wants to dig up every ugly detail. He wants to make her bleed in court. And you don't want that? I don't know what I want. Marcus wrapped his hands around the coffee cup. Part of me wants to destroy her the way she destroyed our marriage. Part of me just wants it over, so I can move on. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Natalia's voice was gentle. You can be thorough without being cruel. You can protect yourself without becoming someone you're not. Bernard said something that's bothering me. He said the woman I married stopped existing 8 months ago. That the person I'm divorcing is essentially a stranger. Do you believe that? Marcus thought about Victoria. Her laugh. Her ambition. The way she used to trace patterns on his back while they talked about their dreams. Had that person been real? Or had he been in love with a performance? I don't know who she ever was. He looked at Natalia. We met at a charity gala 5 years ago. She was everything I thought I wanted. Sophisticated, ambitious, from the right family. She understood my world. Or, I thought she did. Did you love her? I thought I did. Marcus paused. But Nat, if I really loved her, wouldn't I have noticed? Wouldn't I have seen the signs? Or maybe you loved who you thought she was, and she was very good at playing that role. That's not a failure on your part, Marcus. Natalia leaned forward. That's just tragic. 8 months. She lied to me every day for 8 months. What does that say about the 4 years before? Were any of them real? I don't know. But Marcus, I don't think you should let her retroactively poison every memory. Maybe some of it was real. Maybe she did love you in whatever way she was capable of loving. People are complicated and messy and contradictory. When did you get so wise? I've been wise. You just haven't been paying attention. She smiled softly, taking the sting out of the words. But yeah, Marcus, you kind of disappeared into your empire. There were times I missed you. I'm sorry. I know. And you're here now. So let's talk about what you actually want from this divorce. Marcus took a breath, organizing his thoughts the way he would for a board presentation. I want out. I want it fast. I want to protect Steel Capital. And I don't want to become the kind of person who wages war just because they can. Then tell Bernard that. You're the client. He works for you, not the other way around. He'll think I'm being weak. He'll think you're being clear about your objectives. There's a difference between being ruthless and being needlessly cruel. Natalia paused. Look, I'm not saying Victoria doesn't deserve consequences. She does. But you deserve to come out of this with your soul intact. Don't let her betrayal turn you into someone you don't recognize. Marcus felt something settle in his chest. A clarity he hadn't felt since walking into that bedroom. How do you always know exactly what I need to hear? Because I actually know you, Marcus Steele. Not the CEO, not the Forbes profile, not the guy in the designer suits. I know the kid who used to help his mom with grocery bags. The college student who ate ramen for a month to help his roommate make rent. The person who builds things because he loves the building, not just the having. I'd forgotten that person existed. He's still in there. You just need to remember him. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Bernard. Victoria's attorney just called. She wants to meet. Discuss terms before filing. Thoughts? He showed the message to Natalia. What do you think? I think you should hear what she has to say. Information is power, right? That's what you always told me in college. Marcus typed back. Set it up. Tomorrow morning, my attorney's office. Stay for lunch? Natalia asked. I make a mean grilled cheese, and you look like you haven't eaten anything but anger since yesterday. Despite everything, Marcus smiled. Yeah, I'd like that. As Natalia went back to the counter to make their food, Marcus watched the cafe's rhythm. The flow of customers. The hiss of steam. The comfortable chaos of a small business run with care. There was something valuable here that had nothing to do with profit margins or market share. Something he had forgotten in his climb to the top. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. We need to talk. Please. Adrian. Marcus stared at the message for a long moment. Then he deleted it and blocked the number. Some bridges once burned should stay ashes. The next day, Marcus arrived at Bernard's conference room at 9 a.m. sharp. The room was all glass and steel, the kind of stark professionalism that removed humanity from proceedings. Bernard was already there, reviewing documents. Mrs. Steele and her attorney should be here in 10 minutes, he said. Remember, you don't speak unless I indicate. Let me handle this. Understood. At 9:07 the door opened. Victoria walked in with a woman Marcus recognized. Margaret Chen, known for representing high-net-worth divorcees and extracting maximum settlements. Victoria looked impeccable. Chanel suit. Perfect makeup. Hair styled in the sleek bob she had always favored. But Marcus could see the tension around her eyes, the way her fingers worried the strap of her Hermes purse. Marcus, she said. Her voice was carefully modulated. Victoria. He kept his own voice neutral. They sat on opposite sides of the massive conference table, attorneys between them like referees in a boxing match. My client has asked for this meeting, Margaret began, because she believes there's an opportunity for an amicable resolution that serves both parties. Bernard's expression could have frozen nitrogen. I'm listening. Margaret slid a folder across the table. Mrs. Steele is proposing the following. She retains the penthouse and the San Juan property. Mr. Steele retains full ownership of Steele Capital with no claims on current or future valuation. She requests $15 million as a lump sum settlement and $50,000 monthly spousal support for 5 years. Marcus felt his blood pressure spike. Bernard's hand on his arm kept him quiet. Absolutely not, Bernard said calmly. Your client committed adultery with Mr. Steele's business partner, violating the marriage in the most fundamental way. She's not entitled to half, let alone this grossly inflated proposal. Washington is a no-fault state, Margaret began. But it's not a no-consequence state, Bernard interrupted. He pulled out his own folder. We have hotel records, credit card statements, and digital communications that prove an 8-month affair. We're prepared to demonstrate that Mrs. Steele used marital assets to fund this affair, including expensive trips, gifts, and accommodations. He paused for effect. We're also prepared to show that she shared proprietary business information with Mr. Cross, creating potential corporate espionage issues. Victoria's carefully maintained composure cracked slightly. That's not true. I never. Didn't you? Bernard pulled out a document. We have records of you and Mr. Cross staying at the Fairmont Olympic the same weekend Mr. Steele was in New York negotiating the Meridian acquisition. That acquisition was confidential until it was announced. Mr. Cross's investment fund made several strategic moves the day before the announcement that suggest insider knowledge. Marcus looked at Victoria, really looked at her, and saw the confirmation in her eyes before she quickly looked away. Adrian was using you, Marcus said quietly. Not just for the affair, for information about my deals. Victoria's jaw tightened. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Marcus leaned forward, Bernard's restraining hand be damned. Explain it to me, Vic. Make me understand how the woman I married ends up in bed with my best friend, sharing details about confidential acquisitions. What was the play here? For the first time, Victoria met his eyes directly. And he saw something he hadn't expected. Shame. There was no play, Marcus. It just happened. Nothing just happens for 8 months. Nothing just happens when it requires that much deception and planning. He kept his voice level but couldn't keep the edge of hurt from creeping in. Did you ever love me? Or was I always just a means to an end? Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I did love you. I do love you. But Marcus, you were never here. You were always working, always traveling, always putting the company first. Adrian paid attention to me. He made me feel seen. So this is my fault? No, it's not your fault. It's mine. I made terrible choices. Victoria wiped at her eyes carefully, preserving her makeup. But you can't tell me you're surprised. When was the last time we had dinner together? When was the last time you were home before midnight? When was the last time you chose me over a board meeting? The accusations stung because they held kernels of truth. Marcus had been consumed by Steele Capital. By growth. By success. He had taken Victoria for granted. Assumed she would always be there. You're right, he said, and saw surprise flicker across her face. I was a shitty husband in a lot of ways. I prioritized work over our marriage. I didn't pay enough attention. I failed you. Marcus, Victoria started, but his voice hardened. You don't get to blame me for your choices. You could have talked to me. You could have demanded counseling. You could have filed for divorce. Instead, you slept with my best friend and leaked business information. Those were your choices, Vic. Own them. Silence filled the conference room. Margaret shifted uncomfortably. Bernard watched with predatory interest. Perhaps we should take a break, Margaret finally said. Let emotions settle. No. Marcus's voice was firm. Let's finish this. Victoria, here's my counteroffer. You get the penthouse, free and clear. I keep everything else. The San Juan house, the art collection, all investment accounts, and full ownership of Steele Capital. I'll give you $2 million as a lump sum, no monthly support. We sign the papers, file for divorce and walk away clean. That's not even close to fair, Margaret protested. Fair? Marcus's voice went cold. Fair would be her getting nothing. Fair would be me pursuing corporate espionage charges against both her and Adrian. Fair would be destroying both their reputations so thoroughly they'd never work in this city again. I'm offering mercy. He looked at Victoria. You get to keep your dignity and a multi-million-dollar property. You get to walk away without me dragging every detail of your affair through court. And you get to do it quickly, so we can both move on. That's the offer, Vic. Take it, or I let Bernard unleash hell." Victoria looked at her attorney, then back at Marcus. For a long moment, he thought she would refuse out of pride or spite. Then her shoulders sagged slightly. "I'll take it." She paused. "On one condition. You're not really in a position to negotiate. Just hear me out." Victoria took a breath. "I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But Adrian, Marcus, he didn't use me for information. That was all my choice. I thought I was helping him, helping us build our own future. He didn't manipulate me. I need you to know that. Why do you care what I think about Adrian? Because you two have been friends since college. Because despite everything, he cares about you. And because," her voice cracked, "because I've destroyed enough. I don't want to destroy that too." Marcus felt something twist in his chest. Even now, even in the middle of ending their marriage, Victoria was protecting Adrian. The depth of that betrayal should have hurt more. Instead, it just made him tired. "Fine, I won't pursue anything against Adrian. But he's out of Steel Ventures. I'll buy out his shares at fair market value, but I don't want him anywhere near my business again. That's reasonable." Victoria's voice was small. Bernard spent the next hour drafting the agreement modifications while they sat in uncomfortable silence. When everything was ready, Victoria signed with steady hands. As she stood to leave, she paused at the door. "Marcus? For what it's worth, I am sorry. You deserved better." "Yeah," he said. "I did." After they left, Bernard leaned back in his chair. "That was easier than expected. She wanted out as badly as I did." Marcus stood, feeling exhausted. "Maybe more. You could have gotten more. Pushed harder. I got what I needed. My company, my freedom, and the ability to sleep at night." Marcus picked up his briefcase. "The rest is just money. That's a very expensive philosophy. I can afford it." Marcus drove back to Natalia's house, feeling lighter than he had in days. The marriage was ending. The terms were set. In a few weeks he would be officially single. Officially free to move forward. He found Natalia in her garden, planting something in the fading afternoon light. She looked up as he approached, dirt on her hands, hair escaping from its braid. "How did it go?" "It's done. She accepted my terms." "And how do you feel?" Marcus sat down on the garden bench. Relieved. Sad. Angry. Free. All of it at once. "That sounds about right." Natalia wiped her hands on her jeans and sat beside him. She apologized. Said I deserve better. "You did. Do you think I was a bad husband?" Natalia was quiet for a long moment, considering. "I think you were a distracted husband. I think you let work consume you in ways that probably hurt your marriage. But Marcus, that doesn't excuse what she did. Two wrongs don't make a right. I keep thinking about all the warning signs I missed. The late nights she said she was spending with her book club. The weekend visits to her sister in Portland. The way she stopped asking about my day. You trusted her. That's not a character flaw. It feels like one right now." They sat in comfortable silence while the sun set behind the trees, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Nat?" Marcus said finally. "Yeah? Thank you. For the guest room, for the coffee, for the brutal honesty. For being the one person in my life who doesn't want anything from me except my friendship. You're welcome." She bumped his shoulder gently with hers. "And for the record, I do want something from you." His stomach dropped. "What?" "I want you to remember who you are when you're not Marcus Steele, CEO. I want you to find whatever it was that made you happy before success became your only metric. I want you to build a life, not just a company. That's a tall order. You've never been afraid of tall orders." Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her. The way the fading light caught in her hair. The dirt under her fingernails from gardening. The genuine affection in her eyes. This woman who had been his friend for over a decade. Who had never asked for anything. Who had opened her home when he needed refuge. "Nat, can I ask you something?" "Always. Why weren't we ever more than friends?" She stilled slightly. Something flickered across her face too quickly to name. "Timing," she said finally. "When we met, you were dating that pre-med student David. Then I was with Jason for 3 years. Then you met Victoria. The timing was never right. And now? Now you're processing a divorce, and I'm not going to be your rebound." But she said it gently, with a small smile that took the sting out of the words. "What if you're not a rebound? What if you're the thing I should have been paying attention to all along? Natalia stood up, brushing dirt from her jeans. Then ask me again in 6 months. When you've had time to process all this. When you know who you are outside of being Victoria's husband. When you're ready to build something real, instead of filling a void. That's fair. I know. She held out her hand to pull him up. Come on. Let's order pizza and watch something mindless. You've had enough heavy for one day. As they walked into the house together, Marcus felt something settle in his chest. This wasn't the ending he had planned. But maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning he needed. If you're still with me, if this story is resonating with you, leave a comment right now. Tell me about a time when the universe forced you to slow down and reevaluate everything. When the worst thing that happened became the catalyst for the best thing. Your stories matter. Keep watching, because what happens next is going to surprise you. 3 weeks later, Marcus was settling into a new routine. Morning coffee with Natalia before she left for the cafe. Days at the office, but now he left at 6 p.m. 3 times a week. Evenings in the Blue Door house, reading books he had been meaning to get to for years. Cooking meals. In Natalia's kitchen. Learning to exist without the constant hum of work filling every silence. The divorce paperwork was progressing smoothly. Adrian's buyout was finalized. Victoria had moved out of the penthouse. Marcus had put it on the market, not wanting to return to a place filled with ghosts. He was sitting in Natalia's living room on a Thursday evening, working through a presentation on his laptop, when her doorbell rang. She went to answer it, and Marcus heard a voice that made his entire body tense. I need to speak with Marcus. It's important. Veronica Blackwell, Victoria's mother. Natalia appeared in the living room doorway, her expression carefully neutral. Marcus, you have a visitor. He stood and walked to the front door. Veronica stood on the small porch, looking distinctly out of place in her designer suit and heels. Veronica, what are you doing here? We need to talk. May I come in? Against his better judgment, Marcus stepped aside. Natalia gave him a questioning look. He nodded slightly. Veronica swept into the house with the same commanding presence she brought to every room. She looked around the modest space with barely concealed disdain. Charming. Very quaint. What do you want, Veronica? I want to talk about this ridiculous divorce and what you're doing to my daughter. I'm not doing anything to Victoria. Marcus kept his voice level. Victoria did this to herself. Men make mistakes, Olivia. That's what they do. But a smart woman knows how to handle these situations with grace and discretion. Grace and discretion. You don't blow up your entire life over a momentary lapse in judgment. Veronica's voice was sharp. You certainly don't air your dirty laundry in court filings and lawyer meetings. Marcus felt his blood pressure rising. Victoria had a 6-month affair with my best friend. That's not a momentary lapse. Adrian is young and naive. Victoria was lonely and made a poor choice. These things happen in marriages, Marcus. The mature response is to work through them, not run away like a child. The mature response is to refuse to accept betrayal and lies as normal parts of marriage. Veronica leaned forward, her voice taking on that manipulative tone Marcus remembered from family dinners. Think about what you're giving up. Financial security, social standing, a stable family unit. Do you really think this little house and your coffee shop friend are going to be enough? Yes, I do. And what about Natalia Rivera? Veronica's eyes glittered. Victoria told me you're involved with her now. Some childhood friend who runs a cafe? Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Victoria doesn't know anything about my relationship with Natalia. Don't be naive, dear. Victoria has people watching you. She knows Natalia spends most nights here. Knows she's been playing house with you. Do you really think a woman like that, from that background, is going to stick around when the reality of your life sets in? Before Marcus could respond, he heard Natalia's footsteps behind him. Mrs. Blackwell. Her voice was polite but cold. I think you should leave. Veronica turned to face her. Ms. Rivera. How convenient that you're here. I live here. Natalia moved to stand beside Marcus. This is my home. Ah yes. The friend who swoops in during a crisis. How fortunate for you that Marcus's marriage fell apart. My marriage fell apart. Because your daughter chose to have an affair, Marcus said. Natalia had nothing to do with that. Didn't she? Veronica's smile was sharp. Victoria mentioned you used to talk about this woman. Your friend from college. The one you helped financially. The one who was always there in the background. Marcus felt his hands clench into fists. Natalia never crossed a line. Not once. She's been nothing but a good friend. Is that what we're calling it? Veronica stood, smoothing her skirt. Marcus, I'm going to say this once, and I hope you'll listen carefully. Victoria is willing to forgive this little rebellion of yours. She's willing to take you back, to give your life structure and respectability again. But her patience isn't infinite. I don't want her forgiveness. And I don't want the Blackwell name. What you want and what's best for your future might be two different things. Think about that. I have thought about it. And I've decided that being alone is better than being with someone who doesn't respect me enough to be faithful. Veronica's expression hardened. You're making a mistake. A very expensive mistake. Then it's my mistake to make. After Veronica left, Marcus stood in the quiet hallway, his heart pounding. Natalia touched his arm gently. You okay? That woman has been poisoning Victoria against me for years, hasn't she? She never thought I was good enough for her daughter. Marcus turned to face Natalia. And now she's trying to convince me that I'm not good enough for you. Are you? Am I what? Good enough for me? Marcus studied her face. I don't know. I'm a workaholic with trust issues and a failed marriage. I have a controlling ex-mother-in-law, and more baggage than a 747. So probably not. Natalia smiled softly. Good thing I get to decide what's good enough for me then. They stood close together in the small hallway. Marcus was suddenly aware of how much he had come to depend on her presence. Her steadiness. The way she never tried to change him or fix him, just accepted him as he was. Nat, what Veronica said about people watching me, you should know that might be true. If you're seen with me, if people think we're together, it could get complicated. Let it get complicated. Your cafe. Your reputation. I don't want to drag you into my mess, Marcus. She waited until he met her eyes. I'm already in your mess. By choice. Because that's what friends do. Is that what we are? Friends? What do you want us to be? Before he could answer, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Then something made him pick up. Hello? Marcus? It's Isabella. Victoria's sister. Marcus felt his entire body go cold. Isabella. What do you want? Please don't hang up. I know you have no reason to listen to me, but there are things you need to know about Victoria and Adrian. About what really happened. I know what happened. I walked in on them, remember? No, you don't understand. Isabella's voice was urgent. Victoria told me things. About why she did it. About what Adrian told her. Marcus, I think you've been played. Both of you have been played. What are you talking about? Can I come over? I can't do this over the phone. Marcus looked at Natalia, who was watching him with concern. He put the phone on speaker. You're on speaker. Natalia Rivera is here. Good. She should hear this too. Isabella paused. Marcus, do you remember what Adrian told you about the affair? That it was about attraction, about a connection? Yes. He told Victoria something completely different. He told her that you wanted a divorce. That you had been talking about it for months. That you were unhappy and looking for a way out. That's not true. Marcus felt his chest tighten. We never talked about divorce. I know that now. But Victoria didn't. Isabella's voice cracked. Adrian told her that you only married her for social connections. That you never really loved her. That you told him you wished you had married someone else. Someone named Natalia. Marcus's stomach dropped. That's not. I never said any of that. I know. But Victoria believed him. And when he started paying attention to her, when he made her feel wanted, she thought she was just getting out before you left her. Natalia's hand found Marcus's, squeezed tight. Isabella, why are you telling me this now? Because I heard about you and Natalia. And I realized that Adrian had been planning this for months. He wanted Victoria. He wanted access to your business information, and he wanted to make sure you were the one who filed for divorce, so he could play the victim. How do you know all this? Because he tried the same thing with me first. Isabella's voice was barely above a whisper. 6 months before Victoria. He told me that you didn't appreciate your wife. That she deserved better. That he could give her everything you couldn't. I told him to go to hell. So he went to Victoria instead. And you didn't warn her? I tried. She didn't believe me. She said I was jealous. That I always wanted what she had. Silence filled the room. Marcus tried to process what he was hearing. Adrian had orchestrated the entire thing. had manipulated Victoria, had destroyed his marriage deliberately. Isabella, I need to go. Thank you for telling me. Wait. Marcus? I'm sorry. For not trying harder to stop this. For not making Victoria listen. I know it doesn't help now, but I'm sorry. He hung up and stood there, phone in hand, trying to make sense of it all. Natalia's voice was soft. Marcus. He planned it. Marcus turned to face her. Adrian planned the whole thing. The affair, the betrayal, using Victoria to get to my business information. He destroyed my marriage on purpose. It sounds like it. And Victoria. She thought I wanted to leave her. She thought she was protecting herself. Does that change anything? I don't know. Marcus sat down heavily on the couch. She still made the choice to believe Adrian over talking to me. She still chose to have the affair. But it's more complicated than you thought. Yeah. He looked up at her. What do I do with this information? What do you want to do? Marcus thought about Victoria. About the woman he had married. The life they had built. Had any of it been real? Or had they both been dancing to someone else's choreography all along? I want to talk to her. One more time. I need to hear her side of this. Okay? Natalia sat beside him. Then do that. Will you come with me? You want me there? I don't want to do this alone. And you, he touched her hand. You've been more honest with me in the last 3 weeks than anyone else in my life. I trust your perspective. The next day, Marcus called Victoria, asked if they could meet. She agreed immediately, suggesting a coffee shop near her new apartment in Capitol Hill. When they arrived, Victoria was already there. She looked different, smaller somehow. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, minimal makeup, jeans and a sweater instead of designer labels. She stood when she saw Marcus, then noticed Natalia beside him. Her expression tightened. I didn't know you were bringing someone. Natalia's my friend. She stays. They sat down at a corner table. Awkward silence stretched between them. Victoria. Did Adrian tell you I wanted a divorce? Victoria's eyes widened. How did you? Isabella called me. Told me what Adrian said to you. Victoria looked down at her hands. He said you told him you made a mistake marrying me. That you only did it for the social connections. That you were in love with someone from your past. And you believed him. Her voice was defensive. He was your best friend, Marcus. Why wouldn't I believe him? Because you could have asked me. You could have talked to me directly, instead of taking his word for it. Tears started falling down Victoria's cheeks. I was scared. You were always working. Always gone. We barely saw each other. When Adrian said you wanted out, it made sense. It explained why you were never home. I was building a company, Vic. I was working hard to give us the life you said you wanted. I never wanted that life. I wanted you. Victoria wiped at her tears. But you were never there. So when Adrian paid attention to me, when he made me feel important, I thought I was just protecting myself from the inevitable. By sleeping with him? I made terrible choices. I know that. I'm not trying to excuse what I did. Victoria looked at him directly. But Marcus, you have to understand. I loved you. I really did. I just didn't know how to reach you anymore. Marcus felt the weight of her words. The truth in them. The ways they had both failed each other. Did Adrian ask you about my business deals? Yes. Victoria's voice was small. He said it was just casual conversation, that he was interested in how you worked. I thought I was helping you by sharing. I didn't realize that he was using you. She nodded miserably. Marcus stood up. I need some air. He walked outside. Natalia followed. You okay? She asked. I don't know what I am. Marcus leaned against the building. She loved me. In her own broken way, she really loved me. And I was so focused on building an empire that I didn't notice she was drowning. That doesn't excuse what she did. No. But it explains it. And maybe, he looked at Natalia, maybe I needed to lose everything to understand what actually matters. What matters? People. Connection. Showing up. Being present. All the things you've been trying to teach me for the last month. I'm not trying to teach you anything. Yes, you are. And I'm finally listening. They went back inside. Victoria was still sitting there, tears still falling. Victoria. Marcus sat down across from her. I forgive you. She looked up, shocked. What? I forgive you for the affair. For believing Adrian. For all of it. I'm not saying it was okay. I'm not saying it didn't hurt. But I understand now that we were both failing each other long before Adrian got involved. Marcus, I don't know what to say. Say you'll move forward. Say you'll learn from this. Say you'll find someone who actually shows up for you instead of just providing for you. What about you? I'm going to do the same. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Victoria looked at Natalia. Take care of him. He's terrible at taking care of himself. I know. Natalia's voice was gentle. And for what it's worth, Victoria wiped her eyes. I'm glad he has you. I'm glad he has someone who sees him. After they left, Marcus and Natalia walked through Capitol Hill in the afternoon sun. How do you feel? Natalia asked. Lighter. Like I can finally breathe. He stopped walking and turned to face her. Nat, I know you said to ask you again in 6 months. But I need to say this now. I'm falling in love with you. Maybe I've been falling in love with you for years, and was too blind to see it. I'm not asking you to do anything with that information. I'm just telling you the truth. Natalia was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. Ask me in 6 months. When you're sure. When you've had time to figure out who you are outside of all this mess. And Marcus, when you do ask, the answer is going to be yes. That was 3 months ago. Now Marcus stood in his office at Steel Capital, looking out over the Seattle skyline. The divorce had been finalized 6 weeks ago. The company was thriving. His life had found a rhythm that felt sustainable instead of exhausting. He pulled a small box from his desk drawer. Inside was a vintage brass compass he had found at an antique store in Pike Place Market. On the back, an inscription. True North. He pocketed it and headed downstairs to his car. The cafe on Pine Street was busy when he arrived. Natalia was behind the counter, laughing with a customer while she made a latte. She looked up as he entered, and her face lit up with that smile that made his heart skip. You're early, she called out. Give me 10? Take your time. He found their usual corner table, and waited. Watched her work. Marveled at how she had built something real and meaningful with her own hands. When she finally slid into the seat across from him, 2 cups of coffee in hand, she was smiling. So? You sounded mysterious on the phone. What's going on? It's been 6 months. Since the divorce was finalized? Yeah, I know. How are you feeling about it? I'm feeling like I'm ready. Ready for what? He pulled the compass box from his pocket and slid it across the table. Natalia opened it slowly. Her breath caught when she saw the compass. She turned it over and read the inscription. True North. That's what you've been for me, Nat. For longer than I realized. Marcus leaned forward. You've been the constant. The one who keeps me grounded. The person who points me in the right direction when I'm lost. I'm not filling a void. I'm not rebounding. I'm choosing. Intentionally, deliberately, completely. I'm choosing you, Marcus. I love you, Natalia Rivera. I think I've loved you for years. I was just too blind or stupid or distracted to see it. You make me want to be the best version of myself. You make me remember why I started building things in the first place. You make me laugh and think and feel and just be. Tears were streaming down her face. You really know how to make a girl cry in her own cafe, don't you? Is that a yes? That's a, I love you too, you impossible man. She laughed through her tears. I've loved you since we were 20 years old, and you helped me move apartments in the rain. I've loved you through every girlfriend, through your marriage, through your divorce. I've loved you when it made sense and when it didn't. Marcus stood up and pulled her into his arms. Kissed her right there in the middle of the cafe, while her customers applauded and someone whistled. When they broke apart, both laughing and crying, Natalia said, So what now? Now we build something. Together. However that looks. I'm not moving into a penthouse, she warned. I wouldn't ask you to. I love your house with the blue door. I'm not giving up the cafe. I wouldn't ask you to. I love having a regular table here. And I'm not going to be arm candy at your business functions. Good, because I'm cutting back on those anyway. Turns out life is more interesting when you actually live it. She studied his face, seeing the truth in his words. You've changed. You helped me remember who I wanted to be. So this is really happening? We're really doing this? If you'll have me? Broken pieces, rebuilding life, and all. I don't want your broken pieces. Natalia cupped his face in her hands. I want all your pieces, however they fit together. That's what love is. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that sometimes we have to lose what we Thought we wanted to find what we actually need. I need you to do something for me. Like this video. Subscribe to Cedar Light Love Stories. Share this with someone who's going through a hard time and needs to believe in second chances. Drop a comment telling me, what's your true north? What's the thing that keeps you grounded when everything else is falling apart? I read every single comment, and your wisdom matters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me tell you Marcus's story. Until next time, remember this. The person you're meant to be with doesn't just accept your brokenness. They help you see that you were never broken at all. You were just becoming.